I would say there's a huge superpower in understanding emotions, especially for ladies. Again, them more embodying the nurturing, supportive, restorative aspect of life, right? So we're not really limiting this thing to gender. We're limiting it to the expression of life altogether, the self-caring of health, if you will. So knowing that, how does this superpower kind of come about? What would it even look like if it was going to be a thing? And I think, in fact, this is the most challenging thing. We often think that a superpower is very external, right? You have to see it. Superman has all these great powers. Um, but is there another version of the exact same thing? I mean, if there is that, then there must be its balance, right? Always two halves to a whole. So we'd say that there is a balance to this. And this is power in the other direction. Again, it has its same faults. If you use too much nurturing support, you will spoil the thing that you're taking care of. If a guy, if we will, uses too much power to make something happen, he will break down the very thing that he seeks to save, right? So the idea of power is knowing when to use, how much to use, and why to use. So in that same way, we'd be looking for these things for the nurturing aspect. Can we say you could take on any situation from the environment of nurturing? Absolutely. Why not? This is very easy to do. However, in the sense of understanding that it needs to be done, easy. Doing, this is more of a challenge, and therefore growth is needed to be able to establish this thing. So how mature are your emotions? Are they reactive? Are they pressure seeking? Are they pressure releasing? Are they restorative? I'd say we'd be seeking for the restorative thing. So again, what would this look like? I think, to the best of my ability and knowledge and experience, I'd say it most likely looks like or resembles a softening and a appreciating and a kind of thankfulness and a kind of growth. Yes. So I'd say, what does this look like in a more physical form? I'd say somebody's having a hard time, right? And you, as the lady, are trying to support this person. Do you lead with doing actions? No. They might not be ready for the action. What action is the right action? Do you know? Not really. We need more information. So we allow the person to speak. Who has the most insight, the person speaking or the person listening? The person listening. They have the opportunity, at least, to be the most insightful. They're not moving under the pressure of the emotion immediately. However, they are seeing how the emotion is affecting this other individual. Knowing that, what can we draw from? What do we take from this thing? Again, we have to have a little bit of background before this incident. What is this person really like? Are they truly a happy, upbeat person who enjoys outdoors? Okay. Does this emotion they're having start to take away from that thing? Do they now want to be indoors, away from people, by themselves? We'd say this has a huge emotional drawback to their health. So we then say, well, this thing is very serious. I need to address this appropriately. Let me spend even more time supporting this person in the sense of allowing them to see the impact it has. I listen further. I see the different emotions coming out. Some frustration, some disappointment, some kind of feeling bad about oneself, and seeing these things express themselves. I now know, wow, you know what? These things need to be addressed. I need to balance this out, not take it away. The emotions are happening. It's a thing. They do feel this way. That is their kind of environment that they're in for the moment. Now, we want to restore this back to balance because we can't live here. It's not a place of residence. So knowing that, we say then, how can I support this person? Immediately, I am just listening. I'm taking it all in. I'm thinking about it. I'm rubbing the back. I'm saying it's okay. I'm saying we'll figure it out. You know, what do you want to do about it? How can I support you? All these things, again, aren't really action related, but they're all supportive, neutralizing things, right? We're not putting ourselves in the picture yet. So we move on from that process. Now, it's probably the next day. We've probably had the heart-to-heart. We've probably said, hey, you know what, let's hang out Tuesday and do something to kind of revisit the same thing, but not the same intensity. right? So on this day, we see them again, they're a little bit more upbeat, and we then start to say, hey, you know what, I really noticed that you were sad, actually, and frustrated, and kind of seemed like you're feeling guilty about the whole thing. Huh, really? I thought I was just furious. But in putting these three other things in there, I realized, yeah, you know what, I was kind of feeling guilty because I felt like I let the person down. And in fact, as this person talks about it, you feel that it's more guilt. They're just talking about guilt. They're not even talking about the anger or the kind of frustration anymore. It's just purely guilt coming out in different forms, different words, and different expressions, different gestures. Knowing this, we say, hey, this thing's feeling a little bit more about guilt. So let me say, well, you know, it seems like you're very guilty about something. But what is it that you feel guilty about in this situation? Person might be so, well, you know, I didn't show up on time. And, you know, it's very good to show up on time. It's an act of showing care and responsibility. And I can't believe it didn't happen. I was stuck in traffic. I tried to get out of the house on time. Didn't happen. And therefore, you know, I feel terrible about the whole thing. And here's the trick now. In that person feeling so terrible, they push that emotion on the other person, therefore giving the negative emotion to that person and getting upset at them. Well, you didn't communicate with me earlier enough for me to leave the house to be there on time. So therefore, you are the cause of this thing, right? Interesting how it works. I'm not going to explain why that goes that way, but that's kind of the scenario that we can see happening often, very, very often. So in being the person that's supporting this individual going through this challenge, I might say, wow, you know what? I think it'd be pretty hard for anybody to get to a place on time if they're stuck in traffic. In fact, that doesn't really seem like you purposely did it, but I'm sure it's just as frustrating, and I'm sure, you know, your heart wasn't in the place where you're trying to be late. And the person might, yeah, you know, it's kind of true. And again, we're not really trying to coach the person. I'm not giving you tips on coaching anybody, but I'm allowing you to kind of see more fully what it's like to navigate the emotional realms of things in dealing with the emotions, right? A good thing to note is emotions are clarifying, right? They might not be right because we might not have the skills to use the right emotions at the right time for the right reasons. And all three of those things have to be in line for it to be right. So we'd be partially doing the thing, partially getting there. And this is good because we're progressing in this way. We want to be whole, but we're getting there. We're making our steps, right? And in each of these acknowledgments that I went over through the scenario, you start to see a little bit more about that thing. And the idea with this self-caring for another person, knowing oneself so much they can give care to a different person, then we start to see how our understanding, how we feel, affects the scenario, and therefore feel more or see our impact on a situation, what we can change and not change. And in this place, getting more acquainted to a more tighter expression of emotion. So we stay in here as opposed to going all the way over here, all the way over here, just to come back a little bit closer to here, right? So I wanted to, I guess, give voice to this understanding to really give you the, I would say, lost art, which used to be, I guess, woman intuition, if you will, or soft intuition of years ago. I think it's a very powerful thing. I think there's no time where it's needed more than now, for sure. And I think both genders need to embody it a lot more, but I think also that having the most experience, it is your superpower to wield, if you will, and therefore bring a kind of emotional wholeness to yourself very much, and seeing where a solid thing can be appreciated. More about that solid thing in the next video.